Hello, welcome back to another year three video for the lily pad. In the next two videos, I'm going to talk about two principles that I read in a book called The Four Agreements. It's by Don Miguel Ruiz. I read these books when I was a young adult. And I'm saying these books because he has another one called Mastery of Love, but I can talk about that one at another time. This one was really impactful because I was at a stage in my life where I felt like, okay, I really want to continue to make changes. How do I do that? What do I need to do? And so I just kind of went on this self help journey, reading all sorts of books and trying to figure out how to just do better. So, I'm talking about two of the agreements because I feel like these agreements are really impactful. I'm going to talk about the other one in another video because each of them can just kind of take up their own videos. The other one, one of the four agreements was almost discussed in reality testing, another video, um, because it's the agreement is literally called "Don't Make Assumptions," right? So I covered that one in two videos, which is anxiety and assumption and reality testing. Um, you want to stay grounded. So when you think about the agreement and be impeccable with your word, I'm not sure what the first thing that comes to mind for you, but when I first saw the book, my assumption was that it was, about being nice to people. So, what Miguel is basically saying is you can use your words to create good in the world or create chaos and spread negativity. Your words include your thinking also, right? So, since thoughts are words you hear in your mind, you can also create that same chaos and negativity to yourself, right? So, to be impeccable with your words is to speak with integrity, honesty, and truthfulness. Say only what you mean. Speak only of what you desire and want to happen. Avoid speaking negatively about yourself or others, right? Use your words in a positive direction. Um, Use them in a positive direction in regards to truth and love. And so those are the things that he meant when he says be impeccable with your word. I especially like them because I am one who's always talking about truth and love, right? And I didn't realize how important integrity was, especially growing up, until I was older. And when you deal with people who have a certain amount of integrity, it's a wonderful thing. Like in another video, I talked about mental, physical, and emotional safety. And when you deal with integral people, you're dealing with people who have a capacity to make you feel mentally, physically, and emotionally safe because you don't have to worry about a lot of things. And so we'll also discuss that along in this video and other videos, right? So most people like to use words and just kind of not grasp that words can be magical, right? Like if you're walking down the street and you took time for your outfit and someone says, "You look so good." You're like, "Oh my goodness, I do. Thank you so much." And that person can be happy for the rest of the day because we don't recognize they put in a lot of effort in their outfit. Now, I will say this, if you put a lot of effort in your outfit and you've said to yourself, "I look good," it doesn't matter if someone else agrees. It's nice when they agree. Um, when you speak of what you desire in the world and you feel good as you speak it, you can just kind of feel that, right? You can feel that in your body, you can feel it in your mind. It's encouraging. This is why affirmations have such positive effect on people because you're actually declaring that I feel good, or I'm this thing, or I will be this thing. And that feels good to you, right? If you feel good and you're thinking and speaking with integrity, or in a way that feels true to you, it'll just kind of help empower you, right? If you feel bad as you think and speak, you're just it's not integral in the sense that it's going to make you feel bad, partly because you're ignoring those things that are good about you, right? And you're more focused on your anxiety and depression. And we've already talked about anxiety and depression just not being true or real, because it's based off assumptions and negative beliefs. And so those things can't be reality. So when you're trying to be impeccable with your word, it takes practice, it takes time. It is a journey. So don't think that, okay, I'm going to think happy thoughts for 2 weeks. It's going to change my life. And then in 2 weeks, if your life isn't changed, you're like, I'm not with it. I'll go back to saying negative things. That felt better. And I know that's a weird thing to say, like you don't think about it in that way. It's not as linear as that. But sometimes people are very comfortable with the dysfunction they're familiar with. Like I'm comfortable with the dysfunction I know, and I'm not operating outside of that. And we have to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes our brain works in that way. So here are some ways you can be impeccable with your words, right? So notice when you're saying something out of habit that actually might not be true. So, how many times do you repeat thoughts such as, I don't have enough time to get everything done? Okay, is that true or is that your, or are you repeating a narrative of anxiety that you just kind of go over and over things in your head? And what that's called is rumination. And remember, like if you're sitting and you're anxious about that thing and you're thinking you don't have enough time, when you actually don't make time to do it, it creates even more anxiety. One of the habits I learned a long time ago, because I also struggle with ADD, um, I have to live a very structured life. If I'm not structured, I'm all over the place. That's why I always tell people there's two of me. I call the one girl Granola J. She just wants to sit around. Um, I don't know what she wants to do, but she would rather not work or do anything else, right? And I have to give her some time out. Like she comes out in the very early mornings because I love having that time to myself. I spend times where I'm balanced with that, but for the most part, I am very structured. I have to be because, again, if I'm not structured, I'm all over the place, and I don't like the feeling of quote unquote all over the place because it makes me feel unproductive. And yeah, I don't like it. So I do what makes me comfortable, but I'm very much so focused on balance, right? So another thing with impeccability with your word is you should shift ever so slightly to the more positive statement from where you are, right? You can shift from, I'm so tired, to, I'm excited to lay my head down tonight, right? You can also shift from, I'm so busy, to, I'm thankful to have so many wonderful things to fill my days. Even though they are a slight shift, it can make you feel better, and the energy in the sentence feels completely different, right? That is the difference between creating what you want or adding to more of what you don't want. So just notice which thought feels better and which thought is most true for you. And so that isn't necessarily because, like, a lot of people will say that kind of thinking can be a little bit delusional, and I don't believe that. What I believe is, again, you're shifting to the positive because you're teaching your brain that the negative is not always true. And we absolutely have to do that because our brain will automatically attach itself to the negative. And so it is my job to train my brain to um, to really shift and focus on that positiveness, if I can. Um, we definitely want to do that because not doing that sets us up for failure and it continues to perpetuate the negative beliefs that we create of ourselves. So, like, there are several articles out there about like negative self talk and the effect it has on you, right? So there's different types of negative self-talk. So grounded self-talk could be, I'm not good at this, so I should avoid attempting it for my own personal safety, right? Like once you feel like, okay, I'm grounded. And the thing about grounded negative self-talk, people absolutely take that as true, right? I have a client now that's really struggling with her anxiety because whatever her anxious brain comes up with, that is truth to her, and she is not going to trespass it. And and one of the things I often say to her is that if we don't reframe your brain, you're going to struggle with anxiety longer than you should because your brain has accepted anxiety as truth, and the stuff that it's coming up with is really unhealthy for you. So there's mean negative self talk. I can't do anything right. No one likes me. I'm just so annoying. I've been a problem all my life. And that mean self talk goes back to those negative beliefs you have of yourself. There's hopeless negative self talk. I don't deserve to be happy. I don't deserve love. I don't deserve joy. All of those things, that's just that negativity. There's apathetic negative self-talk. I'll fail always. So what's the point of trying? Defeated negative self-talk. It looks really hard. Even if I tried, I'll never be able to do it. So, when you think about it, like you're saying all those things to yourself, like saying all those things to yourself isn't going to create an environment in your brain or in your body where you feel happy with who you are. And it's also not impeccable, right? It's not impeccable when you're saying all these negative things, and believe them, because it just leaves you no room to see yourself as this multifaceted individual. And I said that in a previous video, and I really mean that. Like, if you see yourself as this one dimensional negative being, you won't reach the heights that you could possibly reach because you are so focused on the negative. So for me, that negative self-talk will also hinder you from the belief that you have positive aspects to who you are as a person. And to me, if you spend more time cultivating those positive aspects, focus on those positive aspects so that you can continue to grow, you're not going to realize, again, reach that height of self actualization that most people are trying to obtain. So, although I've talked about negative self-talk in a previous video, I do want to go over like how negative self-talk will affect you, right? It will increase your stress overall. You're going to feel like overloaded with the consequences of negative talk, right? Like you're going to have limited thinking. So the more you tell yourself you can't do something, the more you believe it. You'll struggle with perfectionism, which I think, I always say this and I know it's super dramatic, but perfectionism is the thief of joy. You begin to really believe that great isn't as good as perfect, and that perfectionism is actually attainable, which it really isn't. So, in most people who are high achievers tend to do better than people who are perfectionists, because people who are high achievers understand that there's um, a lesson in your failure, right? So I'm gonna fail. Um, Along this journey, and I know it, but I'm going to pay attention to the ways in which I can grow and improve. When perfectionists only focus on what they've done wrong, and that's the thing that again hinders greatness, because if I'm only thinking about what I've done wrong and I'm trying to tell myself don't do that again, then I'm not leaving room for improvement. I'm not leaving room for growth because I'm not evaluating how I can grow or how I can improve. Um, so feelings of depression. A lot of research has shown that negative talk can lead to the exacerbation of feeling depressed, because again, hopelessness is going to live in the idea of that negative self-talk, right? Because you're just verbally confirming that you are not any good, you don't deserve to be loved, and that you just don't deserve good things, right? It challenges relationships. So, whether it's your constant internal criticism or your outward criticism of your partner, um, and going back to that inward self criticism, you can start to feel needy or insecure about who you are as a person. Um, you will struggle with communication, and then your anxiety and negativity will have an overall effect on the quality of the relationship that you're in. I have been in a lot of sessions where partners are just really upset with their significant others because it's like, I've told you time and time again that I'm not cheating, or that you don't have to worry, or this or that, and that person is just convinced um, that the other person is doing something wrong. So catch your inner critic, right? Catch your inner critic, because you're not doing the reality testing. We just talked about that in another video. The reality is that you're a multifaceted individual. You're not one dimensional. So explore the many facets of who you are as a human. And if none of those facets contain anything positive, go back and do it all over again, because you missed something. And you don't want to miss something when it comes to cultivating who you are as a human. Um, you know, contain your negativity. Like, tell yourself, like, I'm not doing that. I'm not believing that. I'm not going to go out of control with this belief. Because again, that goes back um, to reality testing. Another thing for me is change the negativity to neutrality, right? Like, I'm neutral. I don't know, which is why some people feel like my neutrality is that I don't care, but it's like I don't have enough information to have a thought, to have a feeling, to have a reaction. And if I don't have enough information, I'm leaving it where it is until I know, right? I'm a puzzle person. If I don't see a solution, I'm going to wait until I'm inspired, right? I didn't make that connection until recently, but I understand why I'm okay with neutrality, because I am big time. Like, I do jigsaw puzzles, I do brain puzzles, I do those things. And so I am comfortable with the idea of letting something sit until I can think about or get an inspiration, like, that's where that came from. Got it. And I can keep it moving. Um, so just remember those things, work through them. So, one of the things also too, like when it comes to going back to being impeccable with your words, um, instead of like focusing on what you have, what you don't have and what's gone wrong, think about the solution you hope for and all the ways things could go right in the future. Instead of speaking of the problem, start using your words to speak of a solution. And so I just pretty much said that in the previous example, right? If we start to focus on positivity, there's a lot of material out there about manifestation, and a lot of people don't like the idea of manifestation because they feel like it's associated with like some negative, like voodoo or hojo, whatever people call it. But I really think manifestation is a part of, for me, is realizing, right? Realizing that I have the capability to get all these things done. I wanted to open a business. I manifested the idea of I can open a business. And that was important to me because I grew up as a kid who thought that they weren't smart and they weren't capable. And once I realized that I was, it was not hard for me to then decide, hey, like, if I have all this evidence that I'm good and that I'm smart and that I'm capable, why can't I open a business? Hmm, I can do that. I can definitely do that. Right. And so that's impeccable to me with your words, encouraging yourself, understanding what your capabilities are. Like, I often tell clients, okay, let's, in a session, especially if I have a client that's struggling with self confidence and self esteem, let's lay out all the characteristics of who you are as a human. Right. Let's start there. Then we can work on a list of things that you want to improve. Because in my head, if we start talking about the things that you don't have, right? On top of the things that you want to improve, then that'll give you the picture that, okay, I really am hopeless. I don't have any redeemable qualities. What I think about myself is so true. But no, in session, we're going to talk about what's good about you. And I don't mean that we're just going to have this go off into la la land and sing these songs and think rosy thoughts. What I mean is that we're going to really critically evaluate those positive characteristics. Okay, so we've identified these positive characteristics. What can you do with them? How do you see them play out in your life? That's the first thing. How do you see them play out in your life? Well, I've recently got a promotion. I've been maintaining really good relationships, except for in this area with my mom, which is probably why you came, right? I've done this, I've done that. Um, and then the second part of that is okay, well, then the things that you feel like, how are you using those characteristics to build you as a person? Are you focused on them? Are you giving yourself an opportunity to grow in them, to acknowledge them? Because that's what you want to do, right? You want to spend a lot of time and energy focus on improving those things that are good about you. And then you can work on, and I'm not saying this in, okay, I'm going to do all these good things about myself. But then you can allow yourself an opportunity to say, okay, I'm doing these things wrong. I need to improve upon them. There's also understanding. So when I was younger, I had a habit of lying, and it used to drive me crazy because it's like, why am I doing this? I just never understood. And thankfully, in my early 20s. I this is why I love psychology and therapy. You know, in my early 20s, I realized why I was doing it. Lying is a lying is a protective behavior. I'm gonna lie so that I don't get hurt. I'm gonna lie so that I can keep myself safe, right? I know those are two same those are two of the same things on the opposite end, but I wanted to say it that way so people can understand. Like that is why I'm lying. I'm lying because if I keep myself safe, that means in any way, mentally and emotionally. So I'm gonna lie and say I have a thing so that you won't judge me, embarrass me, or, belittle me in some way and so that I can feel like I'm a part of the group. So that was a protective behavior. When I realized that I didn't need to have that protective behavior, that wasn't something I wanted to display as a person because it made me feel bad about who I was. And because I felt bad about who I was in that one area, that I struggled with being a bad person for a long time. And I'm a kind soul. So imagine being a kind person walking around with the idea that you're a bad person. So I overcompensated. And whew, when you overcompensate, you attract yourself to people who don't mean any good for you. So you have to be really careful about what you say to yourself because it affects how you see yourself, and then so on and so forth. So another piece with being impeccable with your word is the practice of tuning in and asking yourself, how do I feel right now? We've talked about this before in previous videos. We definitely talked about it in reality testing. Like, how am I feeling right now? What's going on in my body? Take note of when you feel good. It's a sign that you are thinking and speaking with integrity and in alignment. If you feel bad, note that too, right? It means that you're thinking and speaking out of integrity. And I want to go back because I probably should have done this at the beginning of the video. I just want to say, like, integrity is truth. It translates into without sin, and I see that as without negativity. And it doesn't mean that you can't, again, pinpoint those areas in which you need growth, but growth doesn't have to be negative. So you don't have to be mean to yourself with change. You can speak lovingly and encourage yourself to change, just like you do with your friends. Like, if you went to your friend and said some of the stuff, the negative stuff that you say to yourself to them, they would be like, yeah, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Like, you are not a good person. I don't want someone talking to me like that. So I also read this book a while ago that said something really beautiful. When it comes to truth, you feel it, right? So if you are speaking out of integrity, you feel it. You feel happier. You feel better about yourself. You can extend that to other people Like, I can't express how thankful I am that I am now operating in the place of integrity when it comes to who I am as a human. I'm a much happier person, but I'll be honest with you, when I wasn't a much happier person, I thought that person was truth. I thought that person was who I was. And I'm so grateful that I know better, right? So work to find thoughts that feel good, to think those thoughts and bring attention to them, right? And I don't mean that in the essence of just kind of living in la la land and not being honest with yourself or not being truthful. It is really just being a little bit gentle with yourself, right? Don't take things personally. When you start to take things personally, you start to operate in um, a negativity that you just kind of created in your reality, right? And then understand too that people live in their own reality. Um, you can't make assumptions, right? You can't build impeccability by making assumptions by what someone else is thinking or feeling. Allow them to think and feel however they want, but just know that your focus is on creating impeccability within you. And I'm not saying the previous thing because I'm saying don't encourage people, don't support people. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is if someone wants to have a reality, then allow them to have that reality with respect. I also want to highlight something I haven't mentioned. Um, Silence can be impeccable. This is another reason why I'm okay with pausing and taking your time to come to a conclusion. So much so, I had a friend a long time ago that gave me a set of cards and to hand out to people that said, "Shh, just stop talking." That was, of course, her just being funny, inside joke, but I love those cards. So silence is an expression, and sometimes silence can say a lot more than words. And I don't mean this silence in the sense of silence is violence. I mean silence as in letting a person know, like, I need to think about it. I need to consider. I need to try that on, right? Your actions are part of how you create. So whatever, if you don't take time to consider, to be silent, then your actions will probably convey something that isn't true, that isn't rooted in reality. Um, you know, if hitting someone doesn't fall into the category of how you express yourself any longer, then if you don't take your time to figure out what you're feeling, then you will go to that protective behavior. So create some silence in your life. Create moments where you can pause. Teach the people in your life that from here on out, I'll be pausing before I have before I have a reaction, before I have anything to offer you, so that people can just understand that, okay, I'm not operating in the way that I used to. So mastering the art of being impeccable requires that you heighten your awareness of self. So it's not just words you say, um, it's also the emotions you display. It's your attitude. If your physical attitude shows that you're closed off, you're not open, you're not even considering letting people in, then that's not impeccability. You also, when you express the powers of your negative beliefs, often that's also not allowing you to express your impeccability with yourself or other people. And the goal is to most definitely express the impeccability with yourself. It's just about growth and maintaining. And growth and maintaining can be very, very difficult if you're closed off, if you're negative, if you're closed minded. And I know that sounds similar, being closed off and closed minded. Those are two different things. Closed minded people can be very, very open. So they say, but you still want to understand that, you know, you you're closed off, right? That your mind is limited. Being impeccable with your word is a lifelong journey, right? It's a lifelong practice. So don't expect to feel authentic in it initially, right? You're going to have some growing pains. You're going to have some feelings of, this feels false. This doesn't feel like me. That's going to happen because you're so used to dealing with the negativity, believing the negativity, saying the negativity to yourself and others. But now you're doing something different. You're shifting focus. And it's going to take time to do that. Like, it's going to take, so be gentle with yourself. Like, I'm definitely talking about, I will talk about this gentleness in another video. I did a video similar last year, but I want to do another because I feel like a lot of your mental wellness lives in what you say to yourself, what you practice daily, what you do daily, what you say daily. That's where a lot of your mental wellness is. And I feel like once we learn how to do those things differently, then we'll create these humans that are a lot more healthy, that are a lot more open. And so that's my journey. So I will see you guys on the next video. It's been a pleasure. Have a good rest of your day.